Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the 7th edition Call of Cthulhu tabletop role-playing game rules by Chaosium. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. While we try very hard to stick to language for all ages, listeners should know that this podcast may include mature themes. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and etc., that may bear resemblance to entities living or dead, is strictly coincidental. My name is Michael Diamond, and for tonight's game, I will be your keeper. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways podcast. I'm your Keeper Michael, and we return to a very special episode of Mask of Nyarlathotep, where we are going to focus back in and do a spotlight on a specific character. And so I am here with one of our investigators, so I'll just let them introduce themselves, and we will, as we always do, let the ball roll from there.
Yeah, this is Alex playing Saint Baron, who is in a position to make promises and admit to failing to keep others.
Fantastic. I look forward to seeing you potentially make promises. That's always very interesting. So when we last left Sam, you'd cloistered yourself away a little bit. You'd collected some things, perhaps need some other things. So in preparation for this calling, you had done some very specific things. You'd gone into the Minerva's cargo hold. You'd managed to secure, we'll just say, a very long snake. And then you'd found a place where you could set aside and have this sort of ritual. So I guess I'd like you to take us through Sam's setup, how he has things prepared. Remind us of the aim and the will that you're putting behind it.
With the events in China unfolding as they did, it's become very obvious to Sam that, and even in communication with Jack, that we need allies. And it's not enough to simply ingratiate yourself to one of these powers, but to be able to potentially identify ones that won't end the world, or that don't want to, consume everything, or that don't want to deceive, or that maybe have other aims, like, just like when Maeve attempted to express how Yig isn't one of the bad ones, in giant quotation marks, but how Yig has thoughts on preservation and survival of either their culture or their cult, more about sustaining. And so with Bast, I think that Bast resonates a lot with Sam in that there's a sense of mutual individuality and freedom that comes with being a cat, let alone a cat goddess. There is a level of self-empowerment that seems to kind of run through either both Bast's servitors, as is obvious with Nerys, who was fiercely independent and uncompromising in her ethics and in her stance. So, in looking for allies, feeling the touch of Bast in that volcano has led Sam to be willing to make certain sacrifices to make and establish respectful contact. So understanding the ritual that was given to him, he sought the audience of felines and making them aware of his wishes to make contact with their, I wouldn't even know what to call their mother figure, matron, to seeking out a poisonous reptile to use as not only as sacrifice, but as a representation of the toxin that Sam feels is running through his fate, either due to, the Black Pharaoh's taint on his blade via the ritual, or kind of the ongoing oppressive force that seeks to kind of choke the hope out of him and everyone else. So in a lot of ways, the poison represents, the poison of the reptile represents the venom that's running through his veins. And so he wants to surrender it to Bast. He's relinquishing any power that it gives him in hopes that there's another side of that coin that isn't fear and isn't darkness and represents justice and hope and protection. And there's even though these cats are fiercely independent, like there's a oneness to them. Like they are communal. They are a family of sorts. Whether or not they are, fiercely competitive or anything like that with one another, there's a sense of like mutual belonging that Sam is seeking, which led him here.
The point that it's important to sort of draw to when it comes to perhaps some of the parallels with what Miss O'Shea talked about in her own beliefs now, as probably as stark as that is to even think about, they view what is going on with Nyarlathotep as an existential crisis, as something that could break the world. And so it may be that some of Yig's practices and practitioners might not necessarily line up very well with a deity like Bast, but when there is a enemy of my enemy, there are certain calculations that Bast is willing to make. Much like any feline, they are tactical in that way. It would be easier to put down something horrible with perhaps a unusual ally than attempt to defeat them on your own. So you had uncovered a space where several of the boat's felines had been using as a home. You have collected what you need. You have surrounded yourselves with many different, some living icons of Bast, and one very specific, borrowed statue.
Thank you, Jack.
And so I guess I would ask them, you have the ability to cast that spell. How would that start for you? How would you begin the process?
The first thing we have to do is get extremely intoxicated.
Correct.
So having absconded with a bunch of alcohol from the many full bars on board, I would begin drinking heavily, and after removing every semblance of clothing, and in addition to drinking, dancing about, much in the same way that Nerys showed him that he attempted to emulate before, the same type of rhythmic grace and intensity, not being at all subtle about noise. And as far as what he's singing, it's likely something uplifting. I imagine it would be a song of reverence, of hope. It is a dark time, but he's looking for a positive message, so he wants to put one out there. So that's where it would start.
Mm-hmm.
And then once he was physically exhausted from the dance and thoroughly trashed, the other parts of the ritual would begin. So we would take the copper bowl that the ship was also generous to provide us with and place it in front of the statue of Bast. Reach into that double burlap sack and yank that serpent out by its face, fearlessly, relentlessly, and speak aloud his desires, his wishes, his thoughts.
All right. The blood from the serpent hits the copper bowl and begins to smoke. Just after a few seconds of sitting in the bowl, the room is humid now, hot even, with all of the dancing and singing and probably orating that has been done. You probably called back to memories of songs you had sung in your childhood, or perhaps heard sung. Perhaps that message of hope, the hope from being able to throw off any sort of oppressors and live free as the air does. And that blood and the steam and sort of smoke that begins to billow out of this copper bowl begins to fill the air too. It is not an acrid smell, though, one you would expect. There is no plumes of copper or the scent of blood in the air. It's a spiced scent that comes out of this bowl. It is heavy on your nostrils. It seeps into the pores of your skin. And you stand there as the last vestiges of life wriggle out of this serpent. And you feel the need to squeeze every ounce of that poison and the blood that carries it into this bowl. And there's this great exultation of joy, the joy that you felt when you were saved on the raft, the joy that you felt when powerful and terrible enemy was felled. That moment, that burst of belief that things can be different blossoms in you in this small room, adorned with feline eyes that watch you intently.
Can I bring myself to speak?
Certainly.
And I will say again, by this act, I surrender the darkness within me. I relinquish the poison that threatens to consume me. I implore you to accept my offering and to transmute this toxin into a beacon of hope and strength.
You feel your words echo around in the room off of some of the cabinets here that have been converted into feline apartments, their own little spaces. And the walls slowly fade from the gray and green tones that they carry into dark, black voids. And in these voids, tiny little lights in your eyes begin to appear. And at first they seem a little bit like those feline eyes you have seen stare back at you, much like in the cistern when you saw all of the cats beneath Cairo's streets.
I feel your presence, igniting a fire in my soul. I am humbled by your response.
There's a voice that takes to the air here, but it fills the space with little effort. You have called, I'm here, child. It is a titanic weight for your mind to process.
In this darkest hour, I come before you, great Bast, as a hunter of the horrors that plague this world. These entities have infiltrated our reality, corrupting the hearts and minds of humans. With every hunt and every battle, my soul absorbs their taint, and I only plea for an intervention and an audience with, if I am to be chosen to be an instrument, I wish only your guidance to continue my hunt.
You hear a curious tone come from the voice. You assume you are to be chosen.
If I am worthy.
If they have many eyes in these worlds, I have seen some of your actions. I have heard of your tale in Cairo. It does seem that the darkness there has lessened, although it is not gone.
The soul of Nyarlathotep still lives on.
The soul of many ancient Egyptians live on. I walked among them at one point. Nyarlathotep is an unfortunate side effect of the, as you would call, taint that exists in your world. These creatures from the beyond have come, and they have spread their poison amongst the fertile trees and the people who share the shade it offers. You would stand in a place to render judgment to them, You wish to stand in that gap?
It's not my place to offer judgment, only relief to those who are crushed by their existence and tortured and tormented. I thought that's what this would do, and I push the blade forward against the floor. I was naive in my search for power to not feel helpless against them.
I watched your naivety from a windowsill on a simple desert home not far away. But this is how these creatures work. They wind their way into you by finding what you lack and offering it to you with strings. It's a very dangerous game. There are things I could offer you, but they too have prices which must be paid.
I have no reason to believe that you would be deceitful.
Oh, no. No, I would be very direct. Even now, though. Your eyes fall back to the blade at your feet, Sam. Even now, it sees you. In this space, it hears you. The taint in that sword.
I thought I could control it and use it against him to... I don't know. It was a lie. It was all a lie. Lies upon lies. I lied to myself. I've lied to others. It is one thing to be secretive. It is one thing to be discerning. It is another to be malevolently deceitful. It's not the life I want. Am I a thief and a killer? Yes.
Both done to survive, and perhaps to protect the survival of others.
What can I do to continue my hunt in the fashion that would benefit humanity and not these demons, whatever you want to call them?
You return now to my homeland.
We're traveling to Kenya.
I know the name, but not as you speak it. But it is no matter. It is the land. Much more my home than this water you walk on. If the fight is to be taken to its climax, there are things which could be done. There are songs and rhymes which could be sung. There are names and energies which could be hung, should you so wish it. But I would not enter this bargain with you lightly at all. There will be a toll and a price on you. And in return, there will be a toll and a price you may exact on others. We are not one to call great champions. It is not the way we work. Not anymore. We left our days of being a lioness behind some time ago. Although, trust that we have not lost our ferocity.
I've seen your hunters firsthand.
Yes, capable. There are blessings I could bestow on you, should you be willing to agree to certain things. You would become an enemy of the unnatural. You would hunt them until the ends of the earth, and even beyond if necessary. These are the things that pierce our shadows and foul our lands. They must be ripped out, root and stem. As for the blade, a simple turn of its, I think the closest word that you would understand would be flavor. It is not impossible to shed its taint, to retain its power. But blades are not something that I care for.
The machete itself, before the ritual, the existence of it, the presence of it, is much more a relic of my past that I also wish to shed. It is not the instrument by which I wish to exact justice, by which I wish to eradicate these vermin. I've been shown that I can do more, that I can exist without it, that I can make a difference without carrying its weight. I don't need it I simply need the advantage that the ritual offered, and nothing more. I just don't know how to destroy it, and I can't abandon it because it will find another and lie to them.
All right, Sam, why don't you make me a power roll? This will be a hard difficulty.
So that is a 26 under 45. A hard would be 22. And this is after the -5. So yeah, my pow's already been reduced. Great. Yeah, 22. So I will spend 4 luck, if I may.
You may.
I would spend 4 luck to make that a hard success.
The darkness in the room coalesces into a tall, feminine figure. It coalesces into a being made of shadow. It sort of coalesces together from every point in the room, almost as if there's a large draping of cloth that is pulled from a table into a sort of a center position. It rises up from the floor in front of the Bast idol. What you can make out, other than the shadow, are 2 very yellowed orbs in the center of its face that are exceedingly large and exceedingly feline in their appearance.
I was assuming they were a delightful almond shape.
They are. They're perfect as well. That is the sort of stunning thing about them.
I will do my best to not look away.
It is very tough. But you've passed your power roll, and that's what's important for the moment. Very well. The blade is something that is a minor trinket. The figure steps forward and picks it up by the hilt, and then sort of with the pommel points it down at the ground. And with its other hand, a series of long, sharp claws come out of the shadows. You see the shadow on its hand grow just slightly, and it rakes the bottom of the machete. And there is this nails on a chalkboard sound as it rips from the bottom of the point of the machete all the way up to the hilt. And you can hear the metal groan underneath the raking that's done.
Just for a refresher for me, it's my understanding that blade is pretty tough.
Yep.
Like nigh unbreakable, as far as I could tell.
As far as you're aware, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just calculating my awe. That's pretty much it.
The blade begins to bow. The pieces of the blade begin to bow. And the paw hands of this figure bend the metal into a ball shape for a moment. And it then pulls them apart. And you can see the remnants of this metal fraying into several different directions. And then it claps its hands shut and then opens the paws up in a single swift action. And there is a bolt of thunder that runs through the ship momentarily. In the paws, there's an object in each one. They appear to be claws, some sort of handguards that have 2 blades that protrude out of each one.
Sam stares in silence. The question I have then is how do I feel?
As soon as the thunderclap happened, the well of guilt in your gut dissipates. It feels like the big meatball that you had for dinner is gone finally. There is no more weight inside of you. That feeling that you had that could always be traced back to the little voice inside your head that you knew was there just waiting for you to use the machete. That connection, that presence portion is gone.
But that sensation, then Sam will, from his kind of kneeling, like fully kneeling position, kind of go down into a bit of a prostration, but not to bow, but to stretch. Finally. Like to really just every bone, every sinew, like grabbing into the floorboards and just clenching and stretching everything possible and letting out something resembling a scream, shout, yell, something, some sort of exhalation.
Again, the feeling of freedom runs through you again. It's like being let out of a cage. The figure stands there, still objects in hand.
Are these then to be the tools of their dismemberment?
They will serve you as the blade did, without the additional corruption that the machete offered. If you're going to serve me, you must be able to be flexible with how you serve. I believe very deeply in the importance of family and holding those who you care for very close to you. We do not give up on family. And so I will help you in this regard. There is wisdom that I can share with you on how to keep your family with you.
And it is, I suppose, my place then to accept your divine guidance.
The shadows don't have a face to smile, but if they did, you think they might be. One of the paws comes at you. You feel the claw dig into your chest, and the figure begins writing with the claw. The first thing you feel in the center of your chest is a swirl pattern. Big, deep swirl from the claw. And it's not pain in the same way that you might feel from a cut. It is pain, but it's more of a numbing pain as it happens. The figure says, if you're going to serve me, you are going to need the wisdom of communication. You feel the figure go to your left, like collarbone area, and you feel 3 claw marks dig into your collarbone. Long, all the way down, up over your left breast, down to the first rib.
Let out a hiss. Gritted teeth.
And you must have the wisdom to know when to use the wisdom you have. The paw goes to the right side. You feel another 3 long trace marks down the right pectoral to that first rib. But this time, it makes sort of a final connecting line on the bottom of the 3 on the side. And your body is beginning to shake.
I imagine at this point, I'm just clenching the air with open and closed fists and trying to remain upright.
You will speak with my people as I would. You will hear their words and understand. You will make them ready for the wind that is to come. Now, sit with me, and I will share my wisdom with you.
Can I still manage to speak?
Yeah.
I am grateful, Bast, for granting me this sacred connection. I will carry your influence within me, and I will be a beacon for any and all whom would seek your shelter. And then I probably collapse onto my haunches because I have nothing left.
In those moments, the minutes, the hours that persist afterwards, the spirit of shadows shares many wisdom, many stories, many important truths about the way the world works. It is both eye-opening, wondrous, and concerning. Not terror per se, but it is moving. Just the little motes of wisdom that this figure shares, all under the guise of, well, at this point, a symphony of feline eyes.
So there's kind of been a running theme that I'm genuinely curious about, and there's this kind of again, using Maeve as a point of reference here. There's kind of like almost a nihilistic sense of things, like doom is inevitable. We're just kind of built to stave it off, to survive as long as we can until the collapse happens, because it's. But with what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing here, I mean, okay, sure, I'm a mortal, just I'm a man who's granted driven by purpose. There's a desire to try to restore some sort of balance here, but how does that line up with what I'm hearing? Like, is it absolute bullshit, or is there really, is it all true?
You don't get the sense that Bast has counted humanity out yet. And that could be that she sees humanity as such a variable that it is hard to say. Even in your time with the deity here, this shard of them, this avatar, so to speak, in the wisdom that they share with you, they have a genuine love for humanity, one that goes deeper than you were prepared really to fathom. And they link it back to the fact that in ancient times, humans were the ones that sheltered cats, Bast being one of them, and that no matter how difficult things got, humans always seemed to find a way to persist. And it seems like Bast has great faith in their ability to persist, even through their flawed state.
So it's okay to be beaten, just never broken.
Indeed. Everyone falls. It is the nature of things. Some of us simply fall and land on our feet all the time.
Yeah, that would definitely evoke a snort, at least.
So for the systematic stuff, the hand blades, I think is the best thing I'll call them. You could call them gauntlets. They're essentially going to operate as a D6 as far as their damage type goes. It'll have the same sort of effects that the former machete had, in the sense that it can hit things, as it's a magical weapon, it can hit things that couldn't normally be hit by regular attacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that you are enlightened to their use.
Are they hand blades or are they claws?
Technically speaking, they're claws.
Okay.
But they're more fashioned after like the claws or hand blades that like the shredder would use. It's in that sort of sense.
Okay.
Like there's a plate for the fist. There's a backing support for the wrist, and they tie together under the palm, and there are blades that exist over top.
Okay. So they're for striking, not for like grabbing.
Yeah, they're definitely for striking.
Okay.
But that is not all she shares with you. So you're going to pick up a couple of spells as well.
There's some spells that I'm probably never going to use, but you never know.
So you have Earthly Sign, which is great.
I do. I was actually going to, well, anyway, I'll go ahead and do the system thing.
Yeah, so the system stuff. You're going to get Blessing of Bast.
Sounds awesome.
It costs 4 magic points. It's instantaneous. And then you heal a D6 hit points and restore a D6 sanity points with that casting. The recipient of the spell, the caster or someone else, has to speak a prayer to Bast, though, and has to make a successful power roll to convince Bast that they're worthy.
Sure.
Her symbol, the symbol that she would want you to use, would be a swirl that goes clockwise, right? It starts in the center, and then it's just a simple swirl that goes right, and then down, and then back up around it. It looks like a cat's tail.
Like a curling tail, yeah, that's what I was going to say. It only loops around the once. Yeah.
Yep. Get you this as well. It is the spell Bind Animal.
Awesome.
So in effect, what she tells you is this would assist you with binding essentially mammals. She points out very specific things that it would work on. Monkeys, it might work on. She said it works very well on dogs. They're very loyal. And you can tell that there's likely a little bit of a internal humor to that. Clearly, it work on cats, but she tells you that it won't work on things outside of what I consider friendly.
So no reptiles.
None.
I look again at the dead snake. You know, I don't even have to ask why a snake. I just feel like I know why a snake.
Yeah.
Or serpent, rather. Right, it should be poisonous. There's a lot of big cats in Kenya.
Yes, there's also a lot of very large animals in Kenya, like just large animals, rhinos.
Elephants? Are there elephants? There's elephants in Kenya, right?
Yeah. I'm sure that there are. If not, we'll put them in there. She's going to teach you one other very specific incantation, but she warns that you should be very careful when you use it. She says that this is an incantation which is used to level the playing field should it need to be done.
Yeah, that's an opposed power roll, all right.
Yep. But after she walks you through and sort of opens your mind to the wisdom of why one would use it, if a subject is if you were being hunted by something which is clearly that you are outmatched for, if something must not find you, then this would be the incantation to use.
Well, in my mind, in Sam's mind, it has always been his way to elude, right? To elude the sight of his enemies, especially now that being seen by them is the same as being within range of them choking you to death. And it's just an ongoing problem that we keep having. Is Sam is seen, Sam is hurt, Sam is sad. So the ability to potentially remove that particular advantage seems worth the price. And that's expensive.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that Sam is learning to use the sticks, because it's my understanding those will be pretty helpful for situations like this.
Yeah, they can be. The rest of your voyage is spent in this space, not necessarily with this being here, because after a few hours, the shadows relent to the coming morning. But you are left with 3 very significant brands on your skin. That swirling one in the center, 3 strike lines on your left side, and then 3 more on your right, with that bottom mark just at the top of your rib cage. Those marks are dark as pitch, dark even against Sam's skin. You feel them when you move.
Because really all Sam was doing, other than this ritual, was studying, for the most part, studying and doing what he could to help Mr. Drummond. But I feel like this place, this sanctum, will likely become his spot on the ship for the duration.
Yeah, I could see that.
He'd probably go back to his room and fetch a few important things, and make a little place for himself in a corner, give himself a lamp to read by, and be amongst his new friends.
Well, that sounds as fantastic a time as to any to end. So thank you all so much for joining us for our Spotlight episode with Sam, as we very, very closely now will be nearing Mombasa here very shortly. So we look forward to the official kickoff of season 6 as we arrive. So thank you and good night.